A Course in Miracles, Lesson 196. It can be but myself I crucify. When this is firmly understood and kept in full awareness, you will not attempt to harm yourself, nor make your body slave to vengeance. You will not attack yourself, and you will realize that to attack another is but to attack yourself. You will be free of the insane belief that to attack a brother saves yourself. And you will understand his safety is your own, and in his healing you are healed. The one-man theater. When this is firmly understood and kept in full awareness, you will not attempt to harm yourself, nor make your body slave to vengeance. You'll step off the stage, take off the mask, and realize you are both the villain and the victim, just switching roles behind the curtain. You won't attack yourself anymore. And you'll see clearly that to attack another was just another act in the same old play, rehearsed, performed, and believed. The spotlight might have been on your brother, but you wrote the script. And every line of judgment was a monologue delivered in your own voice. This one idea, accepted deeply, would save the world from its own self. Because when you stop attacking yourself, the curtain falls on every war. Not just the ones out there, but the ones waged in silence, resentment, guilt, comparison, defense. To believe attacking your brother could save you was the central illusion of the ego's drama. But the play is insane, and you, the audience and actor, have suffered enough from pretending it was real. Now you understand, his safety is your own. The moment you try to punish him, you cut the lights on your own stage. No peace, no audience, just shadows fighting shadows. But in his healing, you are healed, because there is only one actor. And the role you give your brother is the one you live yourself. Perhaps at first you will not understand how mercy, limitless and with all things held in its sure protection, can be found in the idea we practice for today. It may in fact appear to be a sign that punishment can never be escaped because the ego, under what it sees as threat, is quick to cite the truth to save its lies. Yet must it fail to understand the truth it uses thus. But you can learn to see these foolish applications and deny the meaning they appear to have. At first, you may not see how mercy could show up in a scene like this. How could a play about crucifixion end in laughter and light? You're standing on a dark stage, holding a dagger, thinking you've just delivered justice. But you don't realize you stabbed the air. The actor you thought you harmed, it was a reflection. A mask you wore in scene 1, forgotten by scene 3. The script may tell you this one deserves it. But the stage was always empty. The ego rushes out from the dressing room in panic when it hears today's line. Because today's line rewrites the ending. The ego grabs the script, points to a page and says, "See, look what he did in Act 2. You can't forgive that." It tries to use truth to defend a lie. It says, "If I crucified myself, then I must be forever guilty." But that's just bad acting. It doesn't understand the play. It forgot it was a rehearsal, work. And it thinks you can't leave the theater without paying for the ticket again. But you don't have to believe this anymore. You can see the spotlight, the painted backdrops, the recorded laughter. You can look behind the curtain and realize the ego was both playwright and critic, never the truth. Mercy walks in from the wings, not to punish, but to whisper, "You've done enough pretending, come home." Thus do you also teach your mind that you are not an ego. For the ways in which the ego would distort the truth will not deceive you longer. You will not believe you are a body to be crucified. And you will see within today's idea the light of resurrection, looking past all thoughts of crucifixion and of death to thoughts of liberation and of life. So the stage grows quiet. The old costumes lose their magic. And the audience, those shadowy echoes of judgment begin to fade. This is where the teaching deepens. The actor remembers he is not the part, not the villain, not the victim, not the betrayed, not the betrayer, not even the body that rose and fell with every dramatic line. He walks off stage and lays the mask down gently. And something beautiful happens. The spotlight turns inward. And where a body once stood, light begins to rise. The script of crucifixion, burned into memory by pain, starts to loosen its grip. It is not denied but seen clearly, no longer mistaken for truth. And in its place, a new thought steps forward. Not a character, but a light. A quiet knowing that there is nothing to fight, no role to defend, no final act of suffering required. What was thought to be a cross becomes a doorway, and resurrection is not loud. It is still, soft, undeniable. The theatre goes dark, and yet everything is suddenly lit from within. This is not the end. This is the exit, and what waits beyond the curtain is not applause, but peace. Today's idea is one step we take in leading us from bondage to the state of perfect freedom. Let us take this step today, that we may quickly go the way salvation shows us, taking every step in its appointed sequence, as the mind relinquishes its burdens one by one. It is not time we need for this. It is but willingness. For what would seem to need 1,000 years can easily be done in just one instant by the grace of God. Today's ideal is not a line in the script. It's the moment the actor puts down the script altogether. One step off the stage, one breath out of character, and freedom begins to whisper from the back of the house. The house lights flicker. The illusion trembles. And the curtain you thought would never rise on peace suddenly begins to lift. This is not a sprint through time. It's a release from it. There's no rehearsal for grace. No Act 3 miracle. There is only the moment the actor stops pretending he forgot the truth. Let today be that moment. Take this step as if it were the only one needed. Because it is. The props of guilt grow heavy in the arms, but they can be set down one by one, like burdens returned to nowhere. There is no audience keeping score, no director in the sky, only a stage dissolving under your feet the moment you no longer need it. What once seemed to require 1,000 curtain calls melts into a single still instant. One instant of willingness, not effort. Not time, not apology, just the quiet choice to walk away from the character you thought you had to become. And the miracle does the rest. The dreary, hopeless thought that you can make attacks on others and escape yourself has nailed you to the cross. Perhaps it seemed to be salvation, yet it merely stood for the belief the fear of God is real. And what is that but hell? Who could believe his father is his deadly enemy, separate from him and waiting to destroy his life and blot him from the universe, without the fear of hell upon his heart? The spotlight shifts again. And now the actor steps forward with fury in his hand, vengeance in his eyes. He points across the stage and calls it justice. But the tragedy is this: he doesn't know the stage is made of mirrors. The dagger he throws finds only his own reflection. The cries for punishment echo back through the hollow set, striking no target but the one who hurled them. This is the great mistake of the play. That attacking another will buy you peace. That crowning another with thorns will somehow save you from your own. And still the actor performs the scene over and over, nailed to a cross he built with his own lines, his own roles, his own mistaken cause. He calls it salvation, but the light doesn't rise. The audience never cheers, because this is not resurrection. This is fear dressed in robes. This is the theatre of hell. Not flames and demons, but the heavy silence of believing your father wants you dead, that he's separate, that he's keeping score, that he waits backstage, stone-faced, waiting for you to slip. What kind of script is that? And yet the actor clutches it tightly, as if without it he'd cease to exist. To fear God is to mistake the playwright for the executioner. To look upon love and see a hangman's hood. Who could believe such a thing and not tremble? Not feel the cold weight of exile pressed against his heart? And so the actor keeps performing, keeps accusing, keeps stabbing ghosts in the wings, never realizing the whole scene was born from one false belief, that the one who made him could turn against him, that the author of peace wrote punishment into the final act, that love could ever crucify. Such is the form of madness you believe if you accept the fearful thought you can attack another and be free yourself. Until this form is changed, there is no hope. Until you see that this at least must be entirely impossible, how could there be escape? The fear of God is real to anyone who thinks this thought is true. And he will not perceive its foolishness or even see that it is there, so that it would be possible to question it. This is the madness rehearsed night after night. The actor swings his sword, hoping to sever his brother from blame and call himself free. The spotlight burns down on the lie. A lie so rehearsed, so memorized, the actor forgets it was never real. He calls this scene redemption. But it is only repetition. And until this scene is changed, until this form of storytelling is abandoned, there is no hope. There will be no bow, no curtain call, only reruns of sacrifice and shame. The actor must come to see that it is not just misguided, it is impossible. You cannot strike another and escape the bruise. You cannot chain your brother and call it flight. You cannot write a death sentence for another and expect life to be your reward. The fear of God appears real in this kind of play, because the playwright is mistaken for the villain. And so long as this belief goes unquestioned, the script continues. No matter how many tears are shed, how many roles are swapped, how many costumes are changed, without a question, there can be no rewrite. But the actor does not see his madness. He holds the dagger like a prop, but his hand still shakes. He cannot see that the fear is coming from behind the mask. He cannot see the lines are empty. He cannot see that the stage is built on smoke. So he cannot ask, "Who gave me this script? Why do I still believe this scene has to end in pain? What if the applause I'm waiting for is silence? What if the director I fear is not even watching? What if I don't need this role anymore?" The play cannot change until the question is allowed. And the question cannot come until the actor realizes he has been performing the same death in different costumes all along. Only then can the stage begin to disappear. And the light return, not to the performance, but to the one who forgot he was never written into suffering to begin with. To question it at all, its form must first be changed at least as much as will permit fear of retaliation to abate, and the responsibility a return to some extent to you. From there you can at least consider if you want to go along this painful path. Until this shift has been accomplished, you cannot perceive that it is but your thoughts that bring you fear, and your deliverance depends on you. The actor doesn't question the script until something in the performance begins to shake. Maybe it's the silence in the crowd. Maybe it's the exhaustion from crying on cue. Maybe it's the weight of playing both the sinner and the saint. But the script no longer feels holy, and something inside begins to whisper, "This can't be all there is." Before the whole story can be seen as false, a small shift must take place, just enough to ease the fear that something worse will happen if the play is interrupted. Just enough for the dagger to tremble in the hand. just enough for the actor to stop shouting long enough to hear his own echo. That's when the responsibility begins to return. Not the guilt, but the authorship, the realization, I've been the one reciting these lines. I've been the one calling this character. And with that recognition, the door creaks open. There is now at least the chance to ask, do I want to keep performing this suffering? Do I want to keep dragging this heavy script from stage to stage? The freedom is not in the answer. It's in the question. Because until that tiny shift, the actor believed the pain came from the audience, from the props, from the story itself. Never from within. But now a new light rises, and it reveals what the shadows were hiding. The fear was not caused by the play. The fear was caused by believing in it. The costumes never hurt you. The scenery never attacked. It was always the thoughts, the imagined meaning, that made the theatre feel like prison. And once that's seen, deliverance is no longer external. No one needs to rescue you from the stage. You simply walk off, and the play ends. Our next steps will be easy if you take this one today. From there we go ahead quite rapidly. For once you understand it is impossible that you be hurt except by your own thoughts, the fear of God must disappear. You cannot then believe that fear is caused without. And God, whom you had thought to banish, can be welcomed back within the holy mind he never left. The moment the actor realizes no one else is holding the script, everything changes. He looks out beyond the footlights and sees there is no angry crowd. There is no enemy heckling from the balcony. Only his own lines, echoing back at him from the walls he painted. The wounds on his chest were makeup. The thorns on his head, a costume prop he chose. And the cross was cardboard. This is the awakening the theatre has feared. That no one else ever had the power to hurt him. That no audience demanded a sacrifice. That the director never wrote blood into the script. He's been performing injury to explain his pain. But it was always his own thoughts writing every scene. And the moment that's accepted, the fear of God begins to fade. Because who would fear a light that never dimmed? Who would fear a love that never turned its face? Only someone who mistook their own voice for divine judgment. Only someone who thought the silence of peace was a punishment. Now the theatre begins to dissolve. The ropes fall. The fake skyline curls and drops. And the actor sees it was never the world that made him afraid. It was the belief in a world. He'd been hacking at plastic branches, swinging wildly at shadows, never once looking at the root. But now the root is exposed. The thought that said, I can hurt and be untouched. The thought that said, I can crucify and remain whole. And as that thought falls apart, so does the need to fear what never left him. The curtain behind the curtain lifts. And what was feared to be wrath is revealed as stillness. God never stormed out of the theatre. He was seated in the front row the whole time, not watching to judge, but waiting to be remembered. Salvation's song can certainly be heard in the idea we practice for today. If it can but be you crucify, you did not hurt the world and need not fear its vengeance and pursuit. Nor need you hide in terror from the deadly fear of God projection hides behind. The thing you dread the most is your salvation. You are strong, and it is strength you want. And you are free and glad of freedom. You have sought to be both weak and bound because you feared your strength and freedom. Yet salvation lies in them. The music finally starts playing in the theatre. Not the tragic score of Crucifixion, but a liberation groove sliding through the curtains like a sax solo in a dream. This is Salvation's soundtrack. And the tune playing today is simple, If you didn't hurt anyone, then you don't need to run from anything. There's no posse chasing you off stage. There's no angry god backstage sharpening thunderbolts. You weren't cast as the villain, and even if you wore the costume, no one's pressing charges. You've been hiding in the dressing room, terrified of a wrath that never bought a ticket. And here's the punchline. The thing you've been dreading the most is your own spotlight. You were never afraid of punishment. You were afraid of applause. Because if the curtain rises and the lights come on and the crowd sees what's really standing there, then what? No mask, no script, just you. You've been ducking grace like it owed you money. But salvation's not coming to arrest you. It's coming to crown you. The ego sold you a fake contract. Act weak, act small, and the drama will protect you. But deep down, you knew it was a scam. Because you are strong. And strength doesn't need bodyguards. Because you are free. And freedom doesn't apologize. The ego's entire business model depends on convincing you to fear your own light. So you choose shackles and call it safety. It's like mistaking a stage manager for your parole officer. And who's the pimp in this play? The ego. Not because it's flashy, but because it sells you out while promising protection. It dresses up fear in silk and tells you it's style. But Christ is the real liberation artist. He doesn't talk loud. He doesn't slap the table. He just leans in and says, "You ready to walk?" No scripts, no performance. Just your own strength, finally recognized as yours. There is an instant in which terror seems to grip your mind so wholly that escape appears quite hopeless. When you realize, once and for all, that it is you fear, the mind perceives itself as split. And this had been concealed while you believed attack could be directed outward and return from outside to within. It seemed to be an enemy outside you had to fear. And thus a god outside yourself became your mortal enemy, the source of fear. There comes a moment when the stage lights flicker, and the actor forgets his lines. Not because the play is over, but because the illusion finally cracked. Terror creeps in. The kind that grips the chest and whispers, "You're never getting out of this." But here's the twist. The fear isn't from the audience. It's not from the critic. It's not from the villain in scene 3. It's from the mirror. Because the actor suddenly sees it was himself he feared all along. And when that curtain pulls back, the mind splits for a moment like a bad special effect. Because the illusion had depended on one lie, that the problem was out there. Out there in the crowd. Out there in the city. Out there in your mother. Your job. Your childhood. Your bank account. Your last relationship. You were outside shadowboxing. Swinging at ghosts. Rebuking the booger bear in the closet. All the while it was a cardboard cutout propped up by your own fear. You said, "Look at that, there it is," and then wondered why it kept showing up in every scene. But once the fear comes home, you start seeing clearly. That enemy out there, that was just a back-projected belief. You were too scared to bring to the front row. And now the ego panics, because it can't find a scapegoat. No more villains to cast. No more understudies to blame. And suddenly, God becomes the final target. A big booming being outside yourself, grabbing thunderbolts like it's Mortal Kombat, Divine Edition. You called him Father, then cast him as the executioner. All because you couldn't face the truth that you've been wearing every mask in the play. The victim, the villain, the savior, the accuser, and yes, God too. But here's the laugh that saves the scene. God never auditioned for any of these roles. He wasn't in the cast. He wasn't in the audience. He was the quiet stillness that never bought a ticket. And when you stop performing, You hear his voice again, not booming from above, but rising from within. Not judging, but gently saying, "It was all a dream, beloved." And just like that, the play is over. The mask melts. The house lights come up, and you walk out of the theater laughing, not because it was funny, but because you finally remembered you were never really in it. Now, for an instant, is a murderer perceived within you, eager for your death, intent on plotting punishment for you until the time when it can kill at last. Yet in this instant is the time as well in which salvation comes, for fear of God has disappeared. And you can call on him to save you from illusions by his love, calling him Father and yourself his Son. Pray that the instant may be soon, today. Step back from fear and make advance to love. There's a moment on stage when the lights dim just right, and you swear you see someone lurking in the wings. You catch the glint of steel, not in the hands of your co-star, not in the front row, but in your own. It looks like someone is out to get you, plotting, waiting, rehearsing every scene, for the day they finally take you down. But look again. That assassin isn't someone else. It's a version of you, the character you wrote in secret, the one you trained to take your place and when the guilt got too heavy to carry. The ego always has a stunt double. And now, in a flicker of stage light, you see what's been hiding all along. A murderer cast as your shadow. But here's where the script changes. Because that instant, yes, that chilling flash of self-recognition, is also the very doorway to salvation. Why? Because the God you feared, the angry director, the critic with the red pen, never wrote the play. He wasn't waiting to punish you. He was waiting to be remembered. Not with trembling, but with love. You don't have to run from him anymore. You can finally walk off the stage, drop the prop dagger, and call him what he always was, Father. You say the words now without shame, because somewhere between the costume changes and your monologues of despair, you remembered you were his child, not the villain, not the victim, not the character at all. You want something to pray for? Pray that this scene ends soon. Not because you're desperate, but because you're ready. Pray that you stop suspending yourself on your own crucifix, waiting for a redemption that was never postponed. Step back from the fog machine of fear. Advance toward the spotlight of love. And when the curtains part for the final time, you won't need applause. You'll just smile because you finally left the theater, and nobody had to die for it. There is no thought of God that does not go with you to help you reach that instant and to go beyond it quickly, surely, and forever. When the fear of God is gone, there are no obstacles that still remain between you and the holy peace of God. How kind and merciful is the idea we practice. Give it welcome as you should, for it is your release. It is indeed but you your mind can try to crucify. Yet your redemption too will come from you. There is no thought of God that does not travel with you. None. Everywhere you go, you are flanked by the divine entourage. Security detail of peace. Hair and makeup of mercy. Wardrobe assistant named Grace. And their job? To usher you to that final moment when the play you wrote about pain can finally end. Quickly. Surely. Forever. Because when the fear of God is gone, the only thing that was ever in the way vanishes. No more iron bars made of guilt. No more courtroom drama in your mind. No more dragging crosses across thought deserts because you forgot where home is. The curtain opens not to judgment, but to peace. How kind is today's idea? It doesn't slap your wrist. It kisses your forehead. It doesn't lock you in. It opens every door. You've been asking for release, haven't you? Well, roll out the red carpet. Because this thought, this simple truth, is your escape hatch. your parachute, your secret code, your ladder out of the pit. The idea isn't that you are being crucified. The idea is that you tried, that you believed you could, but a thought in the mind of God cannot be harmed. You cannot kill what God created eternal. You cannot erase what was never written in ink, but carved in light. Even if the body got nailed down, the Son of God never did. So today's the day you drop the hammer, lay down the nails, and remember you were never the carpenter of your own tomb. You are the author of your redemption. And it begins when you stop writing horror stories about a God who turned on his child. Redemption doesn't fall from the sky. It rises from your mind, the moment you say, no more. No more theater of suffering. No more shadow plays. No more applause for pain. Today you take your final bow, not in tragedy, but in truth, because the play ends in peace, and the spotlight has finally found you, not to crucify, but to crown.